Sometimes the loudest room you'll ever walk into is the one inside your own head. We get pulled in so many directions by opinions, expectations, comparisons, and noise that never seems to stop. But there's a quiet strength that grows when you choose to turn the volume down on the world and turn it up on yourself. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's how you learn what you want, what you love, what you're willing to fight for, and what no longer deserves your energy. And staying silent doesn't mean being weak. It means you're learning, preparing, building something that doesn't need to be announced before it's ready. Silence is often misunderstood. People tend to think that if you're not speaking up, posting constantly, or explaining every step you're taking, then you're doing nothing. But the truth is, silence can be one of the most powerful spaces you ever give yourself. When you choose to step back from the noise, you're not disappearing, you're reclaiming control, you're choosing where your energy goes, and more importantly, where it doesn't. There's this kind of inner shift that happens when you stop feeling responsible for keeping up with everything and everyone around you. You stop reacting, you stop defending, you stop explaining decisions that are meant only for you. Instead, you start tuning into yourself in a way that's honest and unfiltered. You hear your own voice more clearly without the echo of other people's expectations. And in that clarity, you discover what actually matters. Silence gives you space to rebuild parts of yourself you might have neglected because you were too busy being present for the world. It gives you time to understand your emotions, your boundaries, and your needs without rushing through them. When you're constantly talking, constantly showing, constantly trying to stay visible, you rarely give yourself the chance to process what's really happening inside you. But when you let yourself be quiet, even for a little bit, everything you've been pushing aside starts to rise to the surface. Your dreams, fears, desires, strengths, things you didn't have room to feel before suddenly have space to breathe. And there's a confidence that grows from that kind of self-awareness. You start making decisions with intention, not impulse. You choose your goals based on what feels right to you, not what looks good to others. You recognize the people who truly support you because they're the ones who respect your quiet periods instead of panicking or demanding answers. And most importantly, you learn how strong you are when you're not relying on outside validation to guide your steps. Silence teaches you patience too. Not everything needs to happen all at once. Even if the world makes you feel like you're supposed to rush your growth, when you focus inward, you start trusting the timing of your life, even when it doesn't look like anyone else's. You stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. You start appreciating your own pace, your own process, and your own path. And that kind of patience becomes a superpower because once you understand that you don't need to be loud to make progress, you stop wasting energy trying to prove anything. There's also something incredibly empowering about knowing that people don't need to see every part of your journey. You don't owe anyone a play of your growth. You don't need to justify your silence. You don't need to explain why you're focusing on yourself. When you step back and go quiet, you're creating a boundary that says, my peace is important, and I'm not sacrificing it for attention or approval. And that boundary becomes a shield. It protects your goals, protects your spirit, and protects the parts of you that are still developing. People might misunderstand you during this time. They might assume your silence means confusion, weakness, or a lack of direction. Let them. Your silence isn't for them to interpret. It's for you to use. It's your workshop, your sanctuary, your reset button. And the beautiful thing is that while others are guessing, you're growing. Quietly, steadily, strongly, Eventually, silence turns into momentum. The work you do behind the scenes starts building into something solid, something unshakable. And when you finally step back into the world, you come back with clarity, with purpose, with strength that wasn't there before. You come back calmer, more aligned, and more grounded. And people feel that difference. They see it. They notice the glow, the confidence, the shift. They notice the way you move with intention, the way you speak with certainty, the way you carry yourself like someone who knows exactly who they are and where they're going. And the best part, you didn't need to announce any of it. Your silence did the work for you. Your growth happened quietly, but it shows loudly. And that's the power of choosing yourself over noise. That's the strength that comes from staying silent. Not because you're afraid to speak, but because you're finally learning to listen to the one voice that matters most your own. When you choose to grow in private, something shifts in the way you move through your life. There's this calm certainty that begins to settle into your thoughts because you're no longer wasting energy trying to be seen, understood, or validated by people who don't actually shape your journey. Private focus becomes this quiet engine, building momentum in places nobody else can see. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. When you stop performing your progress and start living it, things begin to change in ways that feel deeper, more authentic, and more aligned with who you're becoming. There's a huge difference between growing for applause and growing for yourself. When you're chasing approval, every step you take feels like it's being judged. You start measuring your success by how others react, likes, comments, compliments, comparisons. But when you strip all of that away and you allow yourself to grow without an audience, you start to understand what you actually want. You stop doing things out of pressure and start doing them out of purpose. And that shift is where real transformation begins. Focusing privately forces you to confront your own truth without distraction. You begin to notice your patterns, your excuses, your strengths, your weaknesses. When nobody else is watching, you can't hide from yourself. That honesty may be uncomfortable at first, but it's also freeing. It gives you the chance to rebuild from a place that isn't influenced by trends, opinions, or expectations. You get to decide who you're becoming based only on what feels right inside, not on what looks impressive from the outside. And when you're not broadcasting every move, you gain the freedom to make mistakes. People forget how crucial that is. Growth is messy, it's trial and error, it's learning, unlearning, falling apart, and rebuilding. When you're doing all that in public, the fear of judgment can hold you back from trying things that could change your life. But when nobody knows what you're working on, you have space to experiment. You can start over, you can fail privately, adjust quietly, and rise again without the weight of eyes on you. Each mistake becomes a lesson, not a performance. Private focus also brings a kind of discipline that's hard to develop when you're constantly seeking recognition. When you're working in silence, you realize that the only thing pushing you forward is your own commitment. There's no applause, no validation, no immediate reward. And that forces you to build internal motivation, something that lasts far longer than any external praise ever could. You begin to show up for yourself because you want to, not because someone is watching. And once you learn how to motivate yourself from within, you become unstoppable. You also start to notice how much energy you save when you stop explaining your choices to other people. There's no pressure to justify why you're taking a break, investing in something new, distancing yourself from certain circles, or focusing on a goal that others may not understand. You can evolve without permission. You can transform without commentary. And that privacy protects your peace. It protects your vision. It protects your confidence from being influenced by people who might not believe in what you're building. Private growth tends to surprise people later on, and that's another beautiful element of it. When you're quietly putting in the work, improving your mindset, healing your habits, developing your skills, reshaping your life, others don't see it happening. They only see the results. They see you walk in with a strength they didn't know you were cultivating. They hear a confidence that wasn't there before. They notice a glow, a shift, a sense of alignment that seems to appear out of nowhere. But you know exactly where it came from. The nights you spent working while the world slept, the moments you invested in yourself instead of explaining yourself, the commitment you kept when no one was around to applaud it. And when your transformation finally shows, it speaks louder than any update you could have posted. It becomes undeniable. It becomes the proof of everything you were doing in silence, not because you were hiding, but because you were building. People respect results far more than they respect announcements. At the heart of it all, private focus is an act of self-respect. It's choosing to pour into yourself before pouring into the world. It's valuing growth that's genuine, not performative. It's trusting your journey enough to let it unfold without needing immediate acknowledgement. And when you commit to that kind of quiet, grounded, intentional growth, you don't just transform, you elevate, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, confidently, powerfully. And when you finally reveal who you've become, it won't be because you told everyone. It will be because the work you did in the dark shines all on its own. There's a certain peace that comes from keeping your plans, your progress, and your personal growth close to your chest. It's not about being mysterious or distant, and it's definitely not about shutting people out. It's about understanding that not everything you're building needs an audience while it's still taking shape. Some of the most powerful moves you'll ever make will be the ones you make quietly. Not because you're hiding them, but because announcing them too early can add pressure, expectations, or unnecessary opinions that can distract you from what you're actually trying to do. When you don't announce your moves, you give yourself the freedom to evolve at your own pace. There's no countdown, no timeline you have to keep up with, no audience waiting for results. You're not disappointing anyone if something doesn't go exactly as planned, and you're not forced to rush to prove that you're making progress. You get to learn to adjust, to pause, and to grow without feeling like someone is constantly looking over your shoulder. And that freedom is priceless. It's easy to forget that some of the most successful people got to where they are by working in silence. They didn't show every grind, every frustration, every setback. They didn't document every small step. Instead, they focused on the work. They poured their energy into becoming great at what they were doing instead of becoming great at talking about it. And eventually the world noticed, because results don't need to shout to be seen. There's also a strength that grows inside you when you stop needing approval before you move forward. When you tell the world your plans too early, you unintentionally invite opinions, some supportive, some not. You open the door to doubts, suggestions, predictions, and judgments that might not align with your vision. Even the most well-meaning people can plant seeds of doubt without realizing it. When you keep your plans private, you protect yourself from outside noise. You guard your dreams from energies that could shake your confidence or distract you from your path. Quiet moves are clean moves. They're focused, intentional, and uninterrupted. They give you space to think clearly, to follow your intuition, and to trust your own judgment without constantly checking if others agree. And as you stay focused on your path, something incredible happens. You start to develop a deeper relationship with yourself. You begin to rely on your own instincts. You start to trust the process. Even when you can't yet see where it's leading, there's a sense of grounded confidence that comes from knowing that your growth doesn't need an audience to be real. Another powerful part of keeping your moves private is that it allows you to show results instead of explanations. You don't have to tell people you're working on becoming better. They'll feel it. You don't have to defend your choices. They'll see the transformation. You don't have to warn anyone that you're leveling up. Your success will make it obvious. There's something undeniably inspiring about someone who simply becomes better without making a production out of it. When your growth speaks for you, it carries a kind of authenticity and depth that no announcement ever could. And when the time is right, when the work is done, when the doors open, when the opportunity aligns, you get to reveal what you've been building on your own terms. You get to share your achievements from a place of confidence, not uncertainty. You get to tell your story after you've already succeeded, not while you're still trying to figure things out. And the reaction is always stronger because people aren't expecting it. They see the leap, not the ladder. They see the transformation, not the trying. They see the result, not the rehearsals. But maybe the most important part of not announcing your moves is the protection it gives your peace. When you move quietly, you avoid unnecessary pressure. You avoid comparison. You avoid the anxiety of wondering who's watching or judging your progress. You keep your journey sacred. You keep your heart protected. You keep your focus sharp, and the world becomes a little quieter, a little softer, a little easier to navigate. There's a beautiful kind of confidence in letting your success be the announcement, not because you're trying to surprise people or prove something, but because you're honoring the value of your own growth. You're choosing to nurture it privately, allowing it to become strong enough to stand on its own before you share it with the world. And when you do, the impact is undeniable because the work you did in silence shines louder than anything you could have said aloud. There's a different kind of confidence that grows inside you when you finally make the choice to focus on yourself. It's not loud or flashy or dramatic. It doesn't come from being the center of attention or being told you're doing great. It comes from learning who you are without the noise of the world constantly telling you who you should be. And when you develop that kind of confidence, it becomes something no one can take away from you. At first, focusing on yourself can feel uncomfortable, especially if you've spent years putting other people's needs, opinions, or expectations before your own. You might feel guilty for choosing your peace over someone else's demands. You might feel strange for turning inward instead of always reaching outward. But the moment you start listening to the voice inside you, the one that truly knows what you want, what you fear, and what you're capable of, that's when everything begins to shift. Self-focus teaches you to understand your own worth without external validation. You're no longer depending on someone else to tell you that you're enough or talented or deserving. Instead, you begin to believe it for yourself. You start to recognize your strengths, not because someone pointed them out, but because you began paying attention. You start acknowledging your growth, not because someone congratulated you, but because you felt the difference within you. And when your confidence comes from that place, it's unshakable. There's also a kind of grounding that happens when you stop worrying about who approves of you and start asking whether you approve of you. You begin making decisions based on what feels aligned instead of what feels impressive. You start saying yes to things that move you forward and no to things that drain you. Even if people don't understand your choices, self-focus gives you the clarity to know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And with every decision you make from that centered place, your confidence grows a little stronger. Another powerful part of focusing on yourself is that you start to understand your own boundaries, what you can handle, what you won't tolerate, and what no longer fits the person you're becoming. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop silencing your needs to avoid conflict. You stop pretending everything is okay just to keep the peace. Instead, you learn how to protect yourself with intention and kindness. Boundaries become an act of self-respect, not selfishness. And when you respect yourself, you naturally expect others to do the same. Self-focus also teaches you to trust your own timing. You stop comparing your progress to someone else's highlight reel. You stop rushing your journey just because others seem further ahead. You stop punishing yourself for not being there yet. Instead, you learn to appreciate the pace that feels right for you. You understand that real growth isn't linear or predictable. It's personal. And once you embrace that, you move through life with a confidence that from patience, not pressure. The more you focus on yourself, the quieter the opinions of others become. Not because people stop talking, but because their voices no longer carry the same weight. You're not shaken by rejection. You're not discouraged by doubt. You're not controlled by fear of judgment. You begin to see that other people's opinions are reflections of their experiences, not definitions of your worth. And when you stop letting those opinions direct your life, you take back your power. There's also something incredibly beautiful that happens when you center your own happiness. You start creating a life that feels like you. You surround yourself with people who uplift you. You pursue dreams that light you up. You create routines that support your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. You choose environments that inspire you instead of drain you. And in doing so, you build a version of yourself that feels strong, whole, and authentic. Confidence built on self. Focus isn't about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about no longer feeling the need to compare yourself at all. It's about knowing that your journey is valid, your dreams are possible, your growth is real, and your voice matters. It's a quiet, steady confidence that stays with you even on the days you feel uncertain, because it's rooted in who you are, not who people expect you to be. And when you reach that point, when you truly know yourself, trust yourself, and honor yourself, nothing outside of you can shake your foundation. You handle challenges differently. You handle relationships differently. You handle opportunities differently. You walk into rooms with a sense of presence that doesn't need to be announced. You speak with intention instead of insecurity. You carry yourself with a calm strength that people can feel without you even trying. That's the power of focusing on yourself. That's the confidence no one can take away.